Welcome back to the Engler Journey Podcast, where we're all about celebrating success, embracing failure, and inspiring the entrepreneur inside of you. I'm your host, Rebel Saklocha, and today we're kicking off Season 8, and I am joined in studio by Engler alum and accomplished Engler entrepreneur, Dylan Tegtmeier. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me in here, Rebel.
So you graduated from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln in 2016. You dipped your toe in the corporate scene, joined the military, and then took a leap of faith in 2019 and started Tegtmeier Investments, LLC. That's a broad overview of your story, and I'm so looking forward to you filling in the gaps through our conversation today. But to start, give us an overview of who Dylan is and where your interest in entrepreneurship began.
Of course. Well, I grew up in out in the country over by Milford, so just 17 miles west of Lincoln. And, growing up, we weren't poor, but we were pretty steady middle class. And so it was very much a scarcity mindset most of my life growing up, and that does not really lead to much entrepreneurship at all. But, I guess what got me started in entrepreneurship was really just my love for hunting and trapping. And so I would put up my own fur and send it to the Canadian fur markets. And as you might think, that's a lot of work. But I'm one of those weird individuals that just really enjoys hard work. And so that's what I did. And then pretty soon word got around and I started putting up fur for other people. And then I realized, hey, I can do a lot of things to make money in different facets of this fur business. And later on, I started tanning furs, and that's kind of what got me into the Engler Entrepreneurship Program. That's what I took when I started college. So, and then in college, I was actually encouraged by Logan Peters, who was a fellow Engler entrepreneur, to become a fur dealer. And so then I started buying fur from all of my friends in high school that I'd trap with and hunt with. And I put up a lot of fur in one season while I was in college. I specifically remember one night getting done skinning coons. I probably had a pile of 40 or 50 hides sitting. And I looked at my watch and it was already 4:30 a.m. And so I went inside and took a nap.
Decided to take a nap. That's awesome. So through your college experience, what role did Engler play in propelling you to continue that venture or explore other opportunities?
I think the Engler culture is the most important aspect that I took from my college experience. Just being around other entrepreneurs, other people who are probably more exposed to entrepreneurship growing up than I was, that really changed things for me, because if I had been in the Engler Entrepreneurship Program, I would have kept that middle class scarcity mindset my whole life, done my 9-to-5 job for my entire life, and just never known any different. But being around, people like Logan Peters and Jared Kenobi and Stephen Fish and Lucas Fricky, they all really encouraged me to think differently and think in an enterprising way, to take risks and be okay with failing. Tom was the biggest influence there as well. And so that's what changed in me, and I would never look back or have any regrets on that.
Absolutely. So you entertained all these entrepreneurial interests in college, and then post-grad, you entered the corporate space. What was that decision like, and how did that experience put you on the trajectory that you're on now?
So it's interesting because, I would liken it to when I was in high school and I turned 16. And, when you turn 16, it's like the world is your oyster. You can finally drive anywhere and do anything you want to. And that's kind of how it was getting out of college. All of a sudden, there's nothing holding you back anymore. But you also realize, I got to take care of all the bills and all the responsibilities that come with not just being strapped to class schedules every day. And so with that kind of, I fell back into, I guess, my old mindset and just got a job with Orkin as their wildlife professional. And my degree is actually in fisheries and wildlife, which I'm doing nothing with right now. So I got a job with them, and it sounded like the dream job for me. I'd, go out and trap animals and help people keep the wildlife out of their house, and get to work outside a lot of the time. And it turned out to be nothing like that. It turned out to be a lot of angry customers that didn't want to pay all the money that the bosses told me I had to charge them. And I'm actually fairly good with numbers, so I'll explain a little later. But I knew exactly what went into the work that we were doing, and it was just incredible how much more we charged these people for what work we actually did. And so I didn't agree with that at all. And my backup plan was the military. I had met a friend actually when I bought my Prius, he was in the military in the EOD department, and he said they were always looking for people to join. And so I just texted him one night and said, do you have any openings? And he put me in contact with a recruiter, and I got into the command post. And it's probably better because then I wouldn't be disposing of bombs or anything hazardous like that. Command post work is very low key, and almost too low key for me.
Yeah, that's quite the segue, buying a Prius and then joining the military.
Yeah, it's an interesting little talking point, I guess.
No, that's awesome.
And like I mentioned, command post work, I can't exactly explain what we do because it's classified, but you pretty much sit there behind 3 locked doors and monitor systems. And most of the time, there's nothing to do. So you read a book, you watch a movie, or surf the web, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I needed something to balance my my crazy, ambitiousness. And so I finally convinced my wife in 2019 to let me buy a house to just fix up and resell. And so we looked around for a while. We had our criteria of things that this is a deal breaker, like bad foundation walls, like plaster and lath, like bursted plumbing lines and stuff like that. And if we saw any of those, we would walk away and never buy it. Mm-hmm. But after viewing several houses, we found one that was just priced very well. It had all of those things wrong with it.
Oh, no.
And so we bought it.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
Exactly. So, and we realized that, even though those things can be fixed for a dollar amount, if it's priced in when you buy it, you still make pretty good money. And actually, when I started flipping houses, I was talking to an older real estate investor, and I remember him mentioning to me, you have to screw up pretty hard. You have to try to screw up pretty hard to actually lose money in real estate. And he was right. It's surprising, but he was right. You may screw up and you may end up spending a lot more time. You may end up sitting on that house a lot longer than you want to because the buyers just aren't coming around. But at the end of the day, you still make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so that's how I got into real estate, I guess.
So at that point, were you planning on doing all the repairs yourself? Did you have any experience in that realm?
Yeah, actually, I do, kind of. Growing up, my parents were divorced. My mom bought an old farmhouse that she fixed up over many years. And, being a single mom with 2 young boys who are in all sorts of sports, you don't have a whole lot of time to get a whole lot of work done very quickly. So we pretty much lived in a flipping house, open floors, walls getting redone, some sort of work happening at any one time. And we thought it was interesting and fun. And so I'm just comfortable like that. When some people walk into a house and they see that plaster like crackling and falling off the ceiling and the walls, and they see those like plumbing pipes that are burst open, and they think, oh, this is atrocious. I can't even imagine buying a house like this. That's just where I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think being comfortable with risk can be good.
Yeah. So backtracking a little bit, when you were in the military and you had all this time on your hands, were you using that time to research, some of these strategies
Yeah.
or, how were you structuring your time there?
Yeah, I was. I was spending a lot of time on YouTube, just watching all the videos I could about, how to lay tile, like how to do drywall and finishing drywall work and just hacks like on how to do home exteriors well and install windows and all of that. And so while YouTube worked, sometimes they shut it off on government computers, but while it was
pro tip.
Yeah. While the honey was still flowing, I was watching YouTube and I learned a lot. And so in those early years I ended up doing a whole lot of the work myself and saving a whole lot of money, which is probably better because those houses weren't ideal flip houses. Later on, I figured out how to buy the ideal flip houses, and then I could hire out a whole lot more work.
Yeah. So after you purchased your first flip house and there was that element of risk involved, did the risk-taking part of buying new houses get easier each time you did it? Or what is that experience like?
It did, because on that first house and a little bit on the second house, but definitely that first house, my wife was with me when we viewed every single house, and I would consult with her, and we would like pre-design like what we would do here and there. And after that first house, I pretty much just went and started buying stuff and said, hey, I'm gonna put an offer on this tonight. And she might like look it up on Zillow and say, okay.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Oh. And after the first couple of houses, you kind of have your design elements that you just keep because they work really well together, and you just kind of reuse those for each house. Mm-hmm. It's what's hot in today's market. A lot of white kitchen cabinets. We love to put in granite countertops, and of course always backsplash and tile bathrooms. And so kind of had our cookie cutter.
So in the beginning, you were doing a lot of the work yourself. As you expanded and, had other contractors helping you or other people helping you, were there any growing pains associated with that? Or, what was just the general, the expansion process like?
Well, there's always growing pains when it comes to working with contractors, even contractors that I have used very successfully for many houses, and I thought that they would be my guys forever. Things just change for whatever reason, and honestly, managing contractors is one of the hardest parts of that kind of work. And a good example actually is we're building our house right now over by Davie, and we had drywallers set. Drywall is something I always want to hire out because it just makes so much sense for what you pay and what they give you. It just makes so much sense to hire it out. So anyways, the crew that was going to do our house just vanished. They stopped talking to the general contractor. And so the general contractor says, I can try my other 3 crews. And so he said, after calling them, he said, they're all booked up. They can't do it. And the other thing you got to keep in mind is that there's a process and certain things have to happen before other things have to happen. And drywall is one of those kind of climactic, once drywall is done, then by golly, we can get it all done. Paint, like finished plumbing and flooring and everything can just go. It just goes so much faster after drywall's in. And so we weren't really in a spot to like wait a whole nother month, 2 months for other crews because just getting scheduled takes a lot of time. So I went ahead and drywalled it myself. And that's a lot of drywall to do.
So one-man band.
Yeah. My mom helped me a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
She's tiny and she's hard of hearing. She can't lift anything, but she can run screws pretty quick.
Oh, gosh. That's impressive.
Yeah. She was right there, right next to me, just like old times.
Yeah. Awesome. So now at this stage in your business, what are you looking ahead to, or what are some goals that you have entrepreneurially for the future?
Well, that's a great question because I still need to figure that out.
Oh, goodness.
the big life change that happened 2 weeks ago was my enlistment with the military was done. And we've done very well with real estate, and I've been trading stocks since college. And so that's where most of our income comes from. And so I'm quote unquote kind of retired. And preferably I would just focus on trading stocks. It just makes so much more sense now that I'm a father. Keeps me home, or allows me to be home a lot more time than if we're flipping houses. So that'll be the focus, and we'll probably also get into a holding company and buying small businesses.
Awesome. So you're in this transition period. What does that feel like now that that chapter of your life is kind of coming to an end?
You know, when it was coming up, I was scared out of my mind. Just like when I was in the military, like I could blame everything on that. Like, oh, I can't be home because I gotta, go to work. And now it's like, it's all my fault if I'm not home with my kids. And, we're still finishing up the house. And so I love doing that work. And so I'm out there a lot. But that's something me and my wife are still trying to figure out. What is our rhythm going to look like? And I'll let you know when I have an answer, because I don't.
Well, that's encouraging, because as a fresh college grad, I feel like there's a lot of pressure to have it figured out. But I'm learning that no one actually has the secret sauce. So that's very encouraging. I think in a lot of conversations, and we talk a lot, obviously, about entrepreneurship within the Engler program, but sometimes it starts to sound like this really shiny, flashy object to be a business owner and be successful and all these things. How has your view of entrepreneurship and owning a business changed since you've started?
So, I'm actually really jealous of the people who can just work their 9-to-5 job, go home, sit on the couch and watch TV all night, and just be content with that. And it's because, like, entrepreneurship is really scary and a lot of hard work. And I know that there is no other way for me. I cannot do that. Like what my dad does, he works at Lincoln Electric System, sits behind a desk all day, goes home and watches TV all night. And for fun, he grills like steaks on the grill, or goes fishing with his friends, only on the weekends because that's the only time he has. Mm-hmm. But like as an entrepreneur, like you make your own schedule, you can be gone for months and just come back, and like that's up to you. You can make that happen. But because of how I'm wired, I'm almost never going to do that because I enjoy working too much.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier in the recording some of your friends that are like-minded that have kind of pushed you in these pursuits. How important is it to surround yourself with people who are wired in that same way?
I would say it's very important if you are willing and wanting to change or to maintain a certain frame of mind, I guess. And I think everybody's different. I really don't need that much like social interaction at all. At all. I'm kind of a weirdo, but I do think that, iron sharpens iron. And if you have a desire to become more financially minded and you hang out with some guys who are, I think that makes a big difference in your own growth. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So last year, as I was preparing for this recording, Engler featured you on the Instagram page, and in the write-up about you, you stated that your purpose is to make a lot of money to give away to God's kingdom. That's it, end quote. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a big, shiny, sparkly guy. And I'm definitely not beautiful, so modeling's out of the picture for me.
Oh, goodness.
But I am really good at making money. Mm-hmm. I tell some people, I'm the jack of many trades, but I'm only the ace of spades at making money. And so there's no like greater purpose to my work. Like I trade stocks, and not like there's no direct people group that benefits from me trading stocks. And I flip houses, and there's no real like demographic that really benefits from except the home buyers, I guess, or the renters that are in them. So like, yeah, I guess the other thing is, my wife and I, like, we don't need a whole lot. We never grew up with a whole lot, and we don't have the desire to have a whole lot. So what extra we have, we just give away.
Yeah. And what causes do you find important, or, where does that giving spirit come from?
We support several missionaries because they have to raise their own salary to live off of. And so that's one part of it. Of course, our local church gets regular donations as well. But the thing we give the most to is the Jesus Film Project, which if you haven't heard of it, the Jesus Film Project, it started with a film of Jesus's life, and they started translating it into all the different languages of the world. And it's very powerful because, for example, I went on a mission trip to Ecuador, and now I have several friends who are Shuar, which is an indigenous people group in Ecuador. And Shuar people, like all of Ecuador speaks Spanish, but Shuar people also speak Shuar. That's their heart language. And the Jesus film has been translated into Shuar. And so no film ever in history has ever been translated into Shuar. These people, like, they really get to watch TV at all, or movies at all. So when they see a movie, like, it's very special. When they see a movie in Shuar, it just blows their mind.
Yeah.
And so that's a very powerful thing. The Jesus film also does a whole bunch of other stuff. Like they send out like care backpacks to missionaries all over the world that have like a projector in it, that have like a Wi-Fi box in it. And so like these people in the villages, like, they have cell phones, even though it's like a village in the middle of the jungle. They have cell phones, and if there's Wi-Fi, they're going to use it. And so then they can also download like all of these different audios or books that are gospel centered, and then they can be exposed to the gospel that way too. So I really agree with all of the Jesus film and what they're doing. They really don't take near the credit that they could. They support tons of different missionaries around the world, and so I think that's the most effective way to further God's kingdom, is supporting them.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think that's really encouraging. Not only does being an entrepreneur give you that, that flexibility to control your schedule once you get to that point, but also the opportunity to support things that you care about. And so that's really powerful. Thanks for sharing that.
Of course.
So you mentioned, as we kind of round out our conversation a little bit, you mentioned that you grew up kind of in this scarcity mindset. If you were to have a conversation with younger Dylan, or, someone just entering college who grew up in a similar way, what are some words of encouragement or advice that you would offer them?
Gosh, that's tough, because I would want to tell younger Dylan, like, dump that scarcity mindset and use this abundance mindset, use this risk-taking mindset. But that's not something that you can just explain to somebody. That's something that comes with, kind of gradually, like, getting into it and messing up a whole bunch.
Yeah.
and a couple of really tough, like, shocking, like, situations, and then just pulling out of it because, like, God fights for you, and He'll help you get through it. So I guess I would kind of say something along those lines. Yeah. Even though a younger Dylan would be like, "You're just blowing smoke. Get out of here."
So was there a moment either after you took a big risk, or, maybe took a loss on something, that kind of made you take a step back and was like, man, I don't know if I'm cut out for this, or I don't know if this is for me. A failure you encountered that made you reevaluate things a little bit.
Yeah, I think so here's one from in college. I specifically remember this. Sophomore year, I was super busy. I regularly took 15 to 18 credit hours each semester. And I was an undergrad researcher, so I had a UCare project. I had a job. I was trading stocks. And then whatever else, extracurricular activities. And so I remember, I think I was coming back from a quick pitch competition or something, because I was all dolled up in my slacks and button-up shirt, and it was hot out. And so I was walking to the lab, sweating my face off. And I checked my phone, and I was checking stocks. And one stock that I was holding long was absolutely plummeting. And it just shocked me how much money I lost, how quickly. And it was one of these situations where I thought I had it figured out. I thought this is a sure win. I don't know of any reason this would lose. But also there was probably other stressors going on that day, but I just remember stumbling into that lab and just weeping, crying like a grown man does, and yelling at the top of my lungs because I knew nobody was there, and dry heaving into the sink because I was just a mess. I didn't know, because at that point I was planning this is what I'm going to do when I get out of college. I'm just going to trade stocks and be a millionaire. And yeah, I'm better than Donald Trump type thing. And it all came crashing down. And, but you build back from that. And I laugh at that point because I've had so much larger losses than that one. And I'm to the point where it's okay. If I lose 40 grand tomorrow, it happened a couple of weeks ago. Oh, well. Mm-hmm. And then you just stick back to your system. Remember, stocks will go up and down. There's a 50% chance you're right and a 50% chance you're wrong. And if you're wrong, then cut it quick and reevaluate and start over.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, Dylan, is there anything that we missed or any element of your story that you'd like to share?
I think we got it. I think we covered it pretty well. Awesome. Good questions.
Awesome. Well, once again, that was Dylan Tegtmeier, Engler alum, owner of Tegtmeier Investments, and a tremendous example of boots on the ground entrepreneurial spirit. Thanks for tuning in to the Engler Journey Podcast. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review so we can keep building people, building businesses, and building this community.